Hi there, good afternoon. Gareth Southgate has named his England squad for next month's Euro 2024 qualifiers against Malta and North Macedonia. There is no place for Raheem Sterling, Ben White or Nick Pope, but there are recalls for Lewis Dunk and Callum Wilson. We will hear from Gareth Southgate in just a moment as he sits down to give his news conference on the squad announcement. But let's bring you this England squad in full. So, no real surprises as far as the goalkeepers are concerned. We have Sam Johnstone of Crystal Palace, Jordan Pickford of Everton and Aaron Ramsdale of Arsenal. Into the defenders, and here is where we have a few different talking points. So Trent Alexander-Arnold of Liverpool. We know that he's had, I suppose, a little bit of an up and down time with his England career in terms of whether he should be in the squad, where he shouldn't be in the squad, where he plays. But he's in this squad along with Lewis Dunk, Mark Guéhi, who's been at Crystal Palace. Harry Maguire, once again, retains his place. Tyrone Mings comes back in. Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier and Kyle Walker make up the 9 defenders in this squad. Now, what about the midfielders? And here's a really interesting one. The only uncapped member of this squad is Eberechi Eze of Crystal Palace. Had an excellent season, one that obviously got better once Roy Hodgson came in, and Eberechi Eze has been one of their consistent performers so far this season. And otherwise, names again that you would expect: Jude Bellingham, whose rise and rise continues, especially with England. Conor Gallagher of Chelsea. Jordan Henderson, who has 75 caps for England, one of the most experienced members of this squad. I think the second most cap player in this squad, if I'm correct. Also James Maddison of Leicester City, who of course are battling relegation, but he has been one of the standout players in a disappointing season for Leicester. Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice. And then amongst the forwards, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Harry Kane, of course now England's all-time leading top goal scorer as a man, as a male player, Marcus Rashford, Bukayo Saka and Callum Wilson. So that is the England squad. Remember, it is Malta who they play on the 16th of June away, and they are at home to North Macedonia 3 days later. Remember, they beat Italy in their first qualifier away in Naples, and then a 2-0 victory over Ukraine at Wembley to follow. Let's just dive into the news conference room just to see what the scene is as we await the arrival of Gareth Southgate. As always, an incredible amount of interest in this, not just because it's competitive international football, but also given the context of England reaching the quarterfinals of the World Cup late last year, where, of course, they went out to France in the quarterfinals. But since then, there have been those very, very, very impressive victories, particularly the one in Naples, where England hadn't won for such a long time. Well, here is Gareth Southgate. 2 wins from 2 so far, and to the easier games to come against Malta and North Macedonia. Let's hear now from the England manager.
Okay, good afternoon everybody and welcome to Wembley Stadium for this media conference to confirm the England squad for the forthcoming UEFA Euro 2024 qualifiers against Malta and North Macedonia. And as soon as you're ready, Rob Dorset, we'll start with Sky Sports News.
Hi Gareth, good to see you.
Hi, Rob.
First and foremost, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the logistics for this one, because it's an unusual season with the Winter World Cup, but your first England game in Malta comes 19 days after the end of the Premier League season. How difficult has that made your job, and how much has it influenced the decisions, the selections you've made?
Well, it hasn't influenced selections at all. It's, of course, a difficult season for the clubs, the players, for us. So we're always mindful of the welfare of the players, and the most difficult thing when you have a gap like that is to allow the players some time to recuperate, but also not decondition physically. So that's the balance we've got to try to find. And of course, they're, like every other country, we've got important qualification matches on the road to Germany. So we've picked as strong a squad as we can, and we're looking forward to working with the players, and I think the players always enjoy coming back together. So there's always a lot of noise around this time of year, but the reality is everybody's got the same situation, and I think we'll manage it as well as we can.
Raheem Sterling's obviously going to be a headline omission from this squad. He missed the last one as well because of injury. What's the situation there?
Well, I spoke with him a week or so ago, a general catch-up. He's not happy physically with his condition, been carrying a hamstring problem, so he really wasn't in consideration. So we didn't get to the point of whether he should be in, whether he should be out. He doesn't think he's operating at the level that he needs, and so that was the conversation I had with him.
On a more positive note, Eberechi Eze gets his place back in the squad in what is an incredibly competitive part of the pitch for this England squad. So why has he got the nod?
Well, we've liked him for a long time. He was very unfortunate. I think just before the Euros, we were going to call him into a prep camp to have a look at him, and he got a bad injury. The day we were going to, I remember talking to Roy Hodgson about him then, and Roy telling me he'd picked up an injury in training that day. So I think he has finished the season really strongly. He can play in a couple of positions across that attacking line. He's a goal threat. He's got nice ability and burst of speed to go past people and to take people out of the game with dribbling skills. So, yeah, we're looking forward to seeing him a bit closer, and everybody I speak to talks brilliantly about him as a person as well.
At centre-back, Lewis Dunk and Tyrone Mings come back in. In Dunk's case, it's 4 years since he last played for England, and there's been a clamour, I think, from more than just Brighton fans for him to come back in. Was it from your perspective, just that those two have been playing so well for their clubs, impossible to ignore? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think both clubs have been excellent. I think Unai Emery's done a brilliant job at Aston Villa. I think they're like a really well-coached team. And the same with Brighton. Brighton's football this year has been exceptional. And Lewis Dunk and Levi Colwill have been a big part of that. So he's shown great composure with the ball. He's defending. He's asked to defend very often in one-against-one situations. And, he thoroughly deserves his call.
I mentioned at the start this is a bit unusual because it's so far after the end of the Premier League season. You'll be aware that some commentators, maybe even some Premier League managers, are saying these are two games against, with all due respect, not the elite of world football. I'm sure you won't see it like that, and I'd expect you to say opposite. But there'll be some people saying you shouldn't pick your best players, give the younger players a chance, give the uncapped players a chance. That's not your way of thinking, is it?
Well, I don't think the rest of the world will be doing that this summer. And we've played North Macedonia twice at home and never beaten them. So I think we could easily fall into the trap. To be a top team, if we want to be European champions, we've got to nail the big games like we did in March, and you've got to make sure that you nail the more complicated ones because everybody has the view that you've just given. So I think it's a good test of commitment. It's a good test of togetherness. I think this group don't want to let each other down. We want to keep progressing as a team. We have 5 opportunities to work together before a European Championship, if we can qualify for the European Championship. And we played so well in March that we've got to back that up and make sure that we're not needing to go to North Macedonia at the end of this competition, requiring a result to get through. So I think this group of players have got enough humility to recognise that and to approach the task in the way we want them to.
Thanks.
Hi, Gareth. There's a number of young England players playing well in the Premier League. The under-21s have the Euros coming up. Was that a factor in them not being in this squad? Was it more beneficial for them to join up in a tournament situation?
Well, I don't think they're quite ready to be ahead of the players that we've picked, but there's a good chance that if we had problems, they would be the next ones in. Myself and Steve Holland will go to at least a part of that tournament to watch them. I think that's important. We've got some good players in there who we like. I think it's important they recognise that, well, they can see from the decisions we've made there's a pathway here for young players. We've always done that. And, we're excited about some of those players as well, definitely.
Trent Alexander-Arnold's back in the England squad. A lot's been made about a newer midfield role that he's playing. You've played him in midfield against the game against Andorra. Did that come into the thinking about calling him back into the squad? Well,
he's a super footballer, and he's obviously playing in a slightly different role, which I think's invigorated him in the last few months. He has always, of course, been in advanced areas of the pitch with the ball. He's just a little bit more central now. So that's interesting for us, there's no question. Something I've talked with him about in the last couple of weeks. And again, we're looking forward to working with Trent, and we'll see how that all plays out.
And Ivan Toney, he got his debut in the last camp. Of course, now he has his ban for breaching the FA's betting rules. I just wondered, have you spoken to him and what that means for his England future? Yeah,
I have spoken with him. I don't know if that's allowed, by the way, but if it isn't, then they can ban me and not add to his. Look, the ban is the ban. It is what it is. I think he recognised and accepted the punishment. What bothers me is we've got to look after people, and he's injured at the moment. What does he do about getting fit? What does he do? How do we give him some structure over the next few months that he can develop himself or be a better person at the end of it, or have experiences that he might not experience? So I don't like the idea that we just leave somebody that they're not allowed to be a part of the football community. I don't think that's how we should work. I don't think that's how the best rehabilitation programs would work. But he knows that we picked him because we felt until there was a charge, he should be allowed to play. And when he comes back, if he plays well, then we'll pick him. So it won't have any bearing, but I think he'll have additional motivation through what he's experiencing, and I think he's a resilient guy with great character, and we're here to support him.
James?
Just following on from that, he obviously can't play football until January. That doesn't leave a lot of time for Euro 2024, but from the way you're talking, it sounds like he still has a chance to make your squad for that tournament. Yeah,
without a doubt. It's not ideal because he's going to miss a large chunk of the season, and you don't know after that sort of period out how physically he's going to adapt and how he's going to play. But it's possible for him. There would still be time, and he's really impressed us with the way he's played, and I like his personality, I like his belief and the way he goes about his job. So everything is still possible for him, I think.
Okay, we'll finish back with Rob, but before we do, any further questions in the room? No, finish you, Rob.
Gareth, it's slightly off the subject, but I think it's a really important subject. You'll have seen, like the rest of us, with what's happened in Spain with Vinicius Junior. Your England team came very close to walking off the pitch in Bulgaria when faced with that repeated, horrific racist abuse from the stands. Do you think it now needs that, a major team, major players, to walk off when it happens to them or to their teammates to really bring this home and enforce change? Well,
I think we could debate about walking off or not. It's a disgusting situation. I think it's so bad that actually it looks like it is going to force change. So I'm hoping that there will be something positive to come from it, because I think it has taken a central story, not just in Spain, but across Europe and around the world, and that can only help to affect change. So if anybody suggests to me that we don't have a problem in society with racism, then there's another example of what we're dealing with, and more examples of people burying their heads in the sand, frankly. So I think he's dealt with it brilliantly. I think he's got the support of the football community. I know some of our players have publicly mentioned that. And we've been in a similar situation to how he's found himself. And I think, I thought Carlo Ancelotti also dealt with it really well. So there is a lot to take from it. It looks as though action has been taken overnight to deal with certain things. And hopefully it's a story that doesn't just disappear in 24, 48 hours without there being some significant change.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, we'll conclude this section there and head through to the radio interviews. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is Gareth Southgate doing the formal news conference on the announcement of the England's squad for the new next Euro qualifiers coming up in June. They are against Malta away and then North Macedonia at home. And an opportunity to talk to Gareth Southgate, not just about that and about the ins and outs, specific players and situations, but also, as you heard there from our senior reporter Rob Dorset, asking him about the situation surrounding Vinicius Junior. We broke the news earlier today that he is not going to be a part of the matchday squad for Real Madrid against Rayo Vallecano tonight in La Liga in the Bernabeu. He is not going to step on the pitch. He's not part of the matchday squad. On that, Gareth Southgate said, we can debate about walking on and walking off. It's a disgusting situation. It's so bad it looks like it is going to force change. I'm hoping that something positive will come from it. Vinicius himself dealt with it brilliantly. He's got the support of the football community. Some of our players have publicly mentioned that. I think Carlo Ancelotti also dealt with it really well. Hopefully it's a story that doesn't just disappear in 48 hours without there being some significant change. In terms of the squad announcement itself, so there were some interesting inclusions and omissions. And on the inclusions, well, there is one uncapped player in the squad who's once again part of Gareth Southgate's plans, and that's the Crystal Palace attacking midfielder Ebere Eze. He said that he's, took a look at him, wants to include him in an earlier prep camp ahead of the Euros. So this is going back some time, but he got a bad injury then. But, has heard from various people that he's a lovely guy, but also his ability to take people out of the game, his dribbling skills, very impressive. Has always been a fan of him. On Trent Alexander-Arnold, always an interesting talking point as far as England squads are concerned, whether he's in or he's out. Said he's a super footballer playing in slightly different role, which has invigorated him. He's always been in advanced areas of the pitch with the ball, just a little bit more central now. It's interesting for us, and I have spoken to him over the last couple of weeks about that. Trent Alexander-Arnold in this England squad for those games against Malta and North Macedonia. Was also asked about Ivan Toney, obviously, who has this 8-month ban from football for breaching FA betting rules. And Gareth Southgate was unequivocal on this. He said the ban's the ban, it is what it is. He's accepted the punishment. We have to look after people. He's injured, so what does he do about getting fit? How do we give him some structure to develop himself, to be a better person, to have some new experiences he hasn't had before? We picked him because we felt until there was a charge he should be allowed to play. And then he went on to say, when he comes back, if he plays well, we'll pick him. He's a resilient character and we'll support him. And on obviously the campaign's already underway. A win over Italy and Naples, a win over Ukraine at Wembley, and now some relatively more straightforward challenges with Malta and North Macedonia, you would have to say. And Southgate said, we have to nail the big games. We have to nail the more complicated ones. Good test of commitment, of togetherness. He said that he has named the strongest squad he can, but also mindful of the welfare of the players. We have to allow players time to recuperate, but not to decondition physically. It's been such a long season for players for both club and country, of course, with the World Cup in November and December sandwiched into the middle of it. Of course, Raheem Sterling, also another omission, and he said that actually Sterling himself wasn't happy with his own condition physically, carrying a hamstring problem. He wasn't really in consideration. He doesn't think he is operating at the level he needs, which suggests that Sterling himself had not ruled himself out, but wasn't expecting to be included. And Gareth Southgate talked a little bit about that. So plenty more, and we'll obviously bring you the best bits of that news conference a bit later on this afternoon here on Sky Sports News.